This episode of the Nerdball Podcast is sponsored by Jake Paluski at Real JP Multimedia. He does the music for this podcast. He has produced this podcast. If you need anything audio-visual done, he is the man to see at realjp.com, REELJP.com. Let's start the show.
What's up, everybody? I am Matt Leininger, and welcome to the Nerdball Podcast.
This is the Nerdball Podcast with Lorenzo Melcher.
Thanks. That is so official. You know,
was that official enough for you?
Oh man, that was awesome. So if people have been listening from the beginning, you were, when it was me and my buddy doing the podcast together, you were our opening our intro to us way back when.
Hey, I was there from the beginning, and it was once this thing blows up and gets huge, I'll be able to look back and be like, hey, that guy replaced me once.
Yeah, you got replaced by my sister-in-law. So
hey, it happens. It happens. I'm sure she is much prettier than me.
Well, you know, thanks for coming on the podcast, man. It's we've been friends for a while. I don't even remember how we become friends. I think that's a thing too, where when you're younger, well, we met in high school, but it's like, hey, when you're 5, you're like, do you want to be my friend? When you're 18, you don't say, hey, do you want to be my friend? It just happens.
Yeah, it just sort of happened. It was friends of friends, and then it was like one of those where it's like, oh, dude, I kind of like this dude. I kind of like this dude. Like, we should be friends. Awesome, let's be friends. Cool, done.
And we've talked, and we've texted before where, you know, we'll go months without talking to each other. But it's one of those things where we can pick up a phone or pick up the just text again. It's like, you know, like we just left off, you know?
Yeah. That's, and it's funny because I have a handful of those relationships, and only kind of recently have started to learn about how, at least for me, that's kind of an ADHD related thing, where my neurodivergent mind wants me to, or the whole out of sight, out of mind.
Oh,
it's like you can go so long without speaking to somebody, certain people, obviously.
Sure.
And in your mind, that relationship never changes. The relationship never changes. So in my head, you and I's friendship hasn't changed in 20 plus years.
Sure.
Just because, you know, maybe it is because we don't see each other or talk to each other that often, that it means that much more. It's like, oh man, Renzo texts me. Oh man, Big Matt texts me. Like, hell yeah. Like, it's just one of those. It's like, oh, okay. I'm gonna take a moment out of my day, and I'm gonna make sure that I properly respond to this, because this is my guy right here, and I know that I always know it's gonna be entertaining. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, the first question I always ask my guests, like I've been saying since the beginning of the new year, this is a newer thing I'm doing. But what is something you're currently really into? What is something you're nerding out about? If it's a TV show, movies, a hobby you're doing, the only parameters, it can't be anything job related. It's something you're just, because you have to have something away from work. What's something like you're really into right now?
So for me, I always nerd out about Harry Potter.
Nice. Okay.
That's one thing that is a constant for me. This is Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars. Like, those are 3 that no matter what, if I'm having a bad day, I put one of those on. If I'm having a good day, I put one of those on. The first big snow of the year, I watched the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy straight through. Like that. That's my nerding out.
Yeah.
But actually, I'll turn back. Let's see which one just came out. Hip hop did. Big fan of Shea Serrano.
Okay. I've heard him on I think Bill Simmons' podcast.
Yeah, he's great. And he's this whole series of, there's hip hop and other things, movies and other things, and basketball and other things. And they're illustrated by Arturo Torres, and they're just kind of graphic novels where he just kind of goes through and just writes. He just starts writing. It's fantastic. And all of it is it's all it's cool to be able to take stuff like that, very, very cultural and important stuff.
Yeah.
And be able to put down on paper your opinions and your thoughts and your views on things. And that's something that I don't believe that I have the capability of doing, and truly expressing how certain things make me feel. And Shay has a way with words that I'm a very big fan of his work. He's got a couple other books. I highly recommend anybody checking out Shay Serrano. Good follow on Twitter too. Big Scrubs fan. Scrubs fan.
Scrubs, man. I used to get into Scrubs. When Blockbuster had their I don't know what it was called, but it was like Netflix where you would get DVDs and then mail them back. That was the very first thing Andrea and I got in the mail was Scrubs DVDs, like the first season or whatever. We were down in BG. I remember going to get them from the Blockbuster there.
I didn't really start watching that until it was almost over. Honestly, it was one of those shows that I picked up towards the end and fell in love with, and now still to this day is one of my favorite like go to sleep shows. Like,
oh, nice.
There's a handful of go to sleep shows that like I need that background noise to be able to fall asleep, but it can't be anything that I haven't seen because my mind will lock in on it. And it's like, oh, dude, okay, what's this new thing you're throwing at me? Whereas it's like, oh, this is Scrubs season 3, episode 12 for the 2700th time, where it's like, yes, I know all the words, but it's noise and
it's soothing. Yeah.
It just works, man. I don't know. I've had trouble with sleep my whole life, so being able to find something like that where it is a constant, reliable is being able to find those certain things. And like TV works really well with me. Rereading like the Harry Potter books, things that I've read so many times over, and like it just puts my mind at ease and being able to shut my mind down. And that's something I haven't been good at for the first 36 and a half years of my life. I'm only now starting to be able to understand and grasp and really control that.
Have you been a Harry Potter fan since like day one?
No. I randomly went to the library. This would have been
you say
probably
you say it like
oh yeah, no, this is not this is I up until the last couple of years I was not a book person at all.
Okay.
But I was just looking for something different. This is back in like maybe 07, early 08.
Okay.
And I was just looking for an easy read, and one of my friends was a librarian in my hometown, and she's like, "Oh, try one of the Harry Potter books," and I'm like, "Really? Like, fine, I'll see what all the hype is out about." And I have finished the first one in a day.
Oh wow!
Went back, got the second one, finished the second one in a day. Went back, finished the third one in like 2 days, and it was just like within a couple of weeks, I had blown through all of them. And so I actually read all the books before seeing the movies, and I recommend taking that route.
Yeah,
because it's fun to see, because if you go back, if you watch the movies and then go back and read the books, I don't know, it's just maybe some people may think that it's cool to add like different stuff to it, whereas I like seeing how they take one thing and turn it into another, and that's what I always think. What's what I always think is cool about anytime they do, turn a book into a movie or a TV show or anything like that. Like it's definitely a challenge taking a book and turning it into a screenplay or movie script or TV script or anything. And I always think that I've been fascinated by that kind of stuff for a long time.
There's a lot of people that go the opposite. Like they don't like when movies are made from books, and my sister-in-law is one of them, where not like all movies that were made from books, but certain ones. And I remember this is a while ago, having a conversation with her. I was like, when you read the book, you pictured a movie in your mind, and when this person made a screenplay or whatever, they pictured it differently. And that's just the way it is. Like you would have made the movie differently, but if you take 20 people, they probably would have all made it differently. It's just how they picture it when reading it.
Yeah, but and there's definitely certain characters that are so beautifully described by the authors that you literally are picturing a movie in your head.
Yeah.
And with those, I didn't see, like, I saw commercials for the movies, but I didn't really know like what stars were in it or anything like that. I just basically saw the commercial of the three kids. I knew the old lady from Sister Act was in it. Like, beyond that, I didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah.
And she if I just remember reading the Harry Potter books, and there were so many characters that translated perfect to the movies.
Mm-hmm.
And what's funny is, Jason Isaacs, the guy who plays Lucius Malfoy.
Mm-hmm.
In my head, while I was reading, I was seeing Jason Isaacs as Professor Snape.
Oh.
So seeing him show up in the second movie, I was like, oh wait. Yeah, he actually he fits that character way better than Snape. Like,
Yeah.
And I couldn't imagine anybody but Alan Rickman playing Snape. But it was cool to see, like, I was specifically thinking this particular actor, Jason Isaacs, the dude from he was in Patriot, strange cameo on Entourage. We don't need to get into that one, but no, he's a fantastic actor. But I pictured him in one character, and he popped in, and he ended up showing up as a different one. And I thought that was really cool. That was like, actually, no, that's a better idea.
Are you good at, because you just named those actors in that movie, in those roles, and when you said, I'm like, oh yeah, I know who that is. Are you good at just knowing actors and actresses in general and for movies and stuff?
In things that I enjoy.
Okay.
I'm a big IMDb nerd. Like, okay, like that's one of the that's on my homepage, because I'm the type that, oh yeah, if I'm watching a TV show or something and I'll recognize an actor, I'll be like, oh, where do I know him from? So then it's like, okay, this is episode 11 of season 4. Okay, who are the extras? Okay, click on him. Okay, what was he in 2004? Boom, yes,
I knew
God,
it.
I knew it. I knew it. Nobody else is around. Like, why am I celebrating?
I just saw a TikTok yesterday. It said, my husband's toxic trait is missing the first 10 minutes of every movie because he's trying to figure out where he saw that actor before.
Feel seen. I really do.
Yep.
I have to keep, I really have to keep my phone down in movie theaters, otherwise I will start digging.
You know, the one thing I did,
no Wi-Fi in movie theaters.
Yeah.
No Wi-Fi in movie theaters.
Just put a blocker in there.
Why not? You got kids? Fuck it. Don't come to the movies. Sorry, I hope you're editing this. I was really trying not to.
No, you're good. You're good. I never tell people.
The whole public figure thing, I have to sometimes remember. Like, I may not be paid like one, but if I were to just type F you to somebody on Twitter, I would get in a lot of trouble.
Sure.
So it's just like, I'm not quite really that important, but if I say what I really want online, I will lose my job. So
no, I never tell people like don't cuss or don't say this or that, because I want people to be themselves. You know, I don't want people to be reserved when they come on here. And the only thing I do is if it gets out of hand, which has happened a few times, then I just put a note in the show notes. You know, so you're all good, man. You're all good.
Yeah. I do try to keep the public view as PG-13 as possible. You know, like it's and with working. One of my jobs with working with the Columbus Clippers for the last 6 years has
the voice of the Columbus Clippers
stadium,
the stadium voice
of Huntington Park. Voice of Huntington Park. Our radio voices are the voices of the Clippers. I'm your voice of Huntington Park.
Ladies and
that's I've been doing for 11 years now, which is
crazy,
mind-blowing, crazy. Over a decade working in minor league baseball. And then in 2015 I was hired full-time to handle our social media and website. And then once you work in social media and you really start to change the way that you post and the way that you, at least in my opinion, I think you do. I changed a lot.
Like, are you talking like just your personal stuff too?
I'm talking my personal stuff. Where I kind of learned, like, most of the answers, and I'm more referring to if you are on social media and asking a team or commenting on a team's post or a business, something along these notes. Generally, what you are asking on this post, you could have found in the same amount of time by Googling or going to the website or by simply looking at past posts. Just scroll. You don't have to go long. Just look at the past couple days and see if your question can be answered there. And that just kind of changes, like, oh man, dude, I don't need to tweet at Clee Guardians. I don't need to tweet at them. What time do gates open? Because I can literally look back and, oh, they posted it 6 hours ago.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and I'm not telling people not to ask questions of teams, of business, whatever, like, but you can generally find that information that you really need by just spending a little time looking it up.
Yeah. It's just so much easier, right? That people think it's, you know what? I'm just going to have somebody else tell me.
Well, it's like you used to be able to call and talk to somebody everywhere, you know, and now it's all automation and everything. But people want it now. They want it immediately. They want, you know, everything is now. I want the answer now. I don't want to wait. I don't want to call back. I want somebody needs to respond to me this second. And sometimes you get that on social media. You got people that are on top of it and are just ready to fire off the answer right away to whatever you're asking. But when you answer the same question 10 times, it's just like, guys, like, listen, dude, 2 posts ago, like 2.5 hours ago, we posted a ticket link and the time gates open and the time first pitch. And like, it's just.
Do you ever ignore people?
But it's, what's that?
Do you ever ignore people?
You get to the point where there are certain people where you kind of have to, if that makes sense. What and it varies per medium. One of the things that I really noticed, like Instagram is a much younger audience. So you make the mistake of chatting with a kid and he thinks that the Columbus Clippers are his friend. And he's just like, it'll just be like, hey Clippers, what's up? And it's like, yes, we want fans, but at the same time, like, we're not here to be your buddy either. Like, do you have a question? Like, are you, you know, something like that. But But and you do humor people, and a lot of times, one thing that I really learned, and this honestly, I think is ultimately made me a little bit better of a person, is not immediately reacting to what I would consider possibly a dumb question, if that makes sense, because or the way somebody writes, like if you know, bad spelling, bad grammar, whatever, no punctuation, like. Instead of reacting, oh, what is this guy stupid, blah blah blah, whatever. You look and just kind of check, and I'm not saying creep by looking through their profiles or anything. You just kind of you click on the profile and profile picture, and you kind of get a better idea. And there are, and then you just realize, okay, this is a customer I need to talk to just a little bit differently. And you suddenly, instead of being annoyed, it's like, oh, okay, like this person really needs help and has reached out, whatever. And I think that that's kind of made me a much more patient person in the real world, in the sense that I'm just slow down. Just everything is so fast and quick moving and stuff. People speeding on the highways and getting mad, and you're not going fast enough or whatever. Dude, if you're going 3 miles an hour over the speed limit as opposed to 5 miles an hour over the speed limit, like, you're getting mad at that person. Dude, if that person was going 10 miles an hour over the speed limit, they're only going to get to their destination 30 seconds faster. Like this a 5 minutes, like what, like, guys, just relax. Let things happen. And that's a lot of things that I've kind of changed in my life over the past couple of years, is slow down, be patient, let things happen, let things open up. Don't there are certain things you need to be pushing, and certain things that, need to be, immediate, and you need to put everything into. But there's other things, like, guys, like, we'll be okay. Calm down, slow down. Take a deep breath. Now let's attack this thing. It's and every job that I work, and I'm all over the place right now. There are people that are that it's constant. We got to do this. We got to do this. We got to do this. And then you pick that up. You're like, oh, that's the way I'm supposed to be. So blah 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 blah. Do this, this, and this, and this, and all of a sudden you hit a wall.
I think there's times for, hey, we got to rush. There's times for that, but if that's your entire job all the time, then it gets frustrating. I think if you understand, hey, this job we can afford to be able to sit back. Let's watch this. That's how we're going to handle the situation. And then when those fast times do come, then they're easier to handle. Like, okay, this is what I'm talking about now. But we're capable of this because this is a one in every 5 things that we have to go at this speed. So it makes it a little easier to handle, especially at work. And another thing too, it's good to learn something from work and be able to apply it just in life in general. Like you were saying, like, you're doing this social media stuff at work. It's telling you, hey, I got to slow down. I got to regroup. I got to check on things before I answer this person. But then also to be able to carry that, outside of work, I think that's important too, because people learn stuff at work and sometimes they just leave it there. It's good, hey, let's leave work at work, but some of those lessons are good to come home to with, like that's
absolutely
let's do some other things. Yeah.
And when you're working in social media, the problem is your job goes with you in your pocket everywhere.
Yeah.
So there's really no turning it off. And so when you are picking up on those certain kind of things along the way, you really they really do carry over into your regular life, because your regular life is your job. Yeah. I mean, my normal morning routine every day, whether we were in season, whatever, alarm goes off. First thing I do, turn off the alarm. Next thing I do, check Twitter. Next thing I do, check Facebook. Next thing I do, check Instagram. Not my own personal. This is before I even get up, feed the cats, go to the bathroom or whatever. I'm half asleep, just checking, making sure, okay, nothing bad happened. Nothing bad said. Okay, I can close this for a little bit and start my day. I was constantly pretending like I was going to have to damage control. And there was never really much damage control. Like nothing, there were a couple things happened over my 6 years of running it. And
would you
nothing was,
would you get yourself like worked up? Like, okay, I'm going to have to handle something. And then like, you're getting worried about nothing that's there.
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely. Going back to, talking about being the neurodivergent mind. Yeah. There's a thing called hyperfixation, where you can lock in on something and just like it's go. You're doing really well. You can put all of yourself into this and whatever, and nothing else matters. And you can skip meals, you skip sleep, whatever. You just lock into this one thing. Mm-hmm. I hit the ground running when I got the job at a hyperfixated level and felt that I had to stay at that. Mm-hmm. And that's not possible. And that's why I crashed by the end of every single season, just because I was so burnt out. When you're basically working 18 hours a day and feel that you don't have any free time, I need to check what's on my phone. I need to see what's on my phone. Now, I'm not saying that is how the job is supposed to be. That's the way that I took the job, and it ran me into the ground.
It's impossible to keep that pace for 8 hours, let alone the whole time you're awake.
It's impossible to keep that pace on one thing, but then you also have to focus on, for me, I had to get the website done. Mm-hmm. Home game days, I got a PA announce. Yeah. Road game days, I go home from the office and sit down and turn the game on and tweet the game. Like it was my life. Mm-hmm. And eventually I just crashed. I was overworked and trying to stay at that level, and I couldn't. And I crashed hard this summer, and I started having some bad anxiety and ended up having a series of panic attacks, and literally had to take about a month off. And I haven't stated any of this publicly, and I don't really care now, because I'm in a better place. But I had to get myself help, get back into some counseling, get back on some mental health meds, and now this is about 5-6 months removed. I'm in one of the best places that I've been in a long time. And it was just because I needed to stop, take a step back, and focus on me for a little bit. Mm-hmm. Job still be there. I don't have to keep up with that. Like, it's impossible to keep up with. And that was it was a very big learning experience for me this summer. Was my body finally just saying, dude, we can't keep up, man.
Yeah.
Like you're trying to do something that really is nearly impossible, and doing the job of at least 2 full-time, if not 3 time full-time employees.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't blame my boss, because it wasn't until all the panic attacks started that he was like, I didn't realize you were this worked.
Yeah.
And I don't blame him one bit, because I did everything I could to try to hide it, to prove that, I was still trying to prove that 6 years ago, when he gave an announcer a chance at a full-time position, I was still trying to prove it. I was playing it like I was on a probationary status, trying to prove myself every single day and trying to go above and beyond. And I just crashed.
Yeah.
And it took that step back, and was able, my boss was like, all right, we'll hire somebody else. I got to choose who I wanted to bring in, brought in a good friend of mine to take over the social media. Now I get to focus on the website and announcing, and I'm in a much, much better place. And it was just, I just mentally, physically, emotionally was just so drained.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all self-doing, by trying to stay at this hyper fixated, this superhuman level that I'm just not capable of.
Yeah.
But I was sure trying to wear the mask that said that I could.
Yeah.
And I kept it on for years, man. I did. And the COVID year 2020 really kind of saved me, because I don't think I would have made it through that season. And then turn around 2021, I didn't make it through this season. And it's taken a lot of work and a lot of focus. It doesn't happen over time to change your mindset on things, change the way you think. And I had to change a lot of ways that I thought about myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm my own biggest worst enemy. I'm my biggest critic. I destroy myself up here. My high school coach used to say I was $1 million talent with a 10-cent head. I thought a dime was too much, honestly, for a long time.
Yeah.
And now I'm realizing, no, I still have $1 million talent. And actually my mind's a lot stronger than what I give it credit for, because for years it's convinced me that I'm a piece of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like that I don't deserve this, and I don't deserve success, and anything good that happens to me, I don't deserve. Like, it's all self abuse, and man, it's draining.
Yeah.
It can be very, very draining. And so we've had to spend, my counselor and I'm very, very close with her. She's fantastic, and she was somebody that I saw prior to all of this. So then going back and like getting myself back into trying to get myself some mental health help, it was an easy, just like, okay, I know her, I'm going to call her.
Yeah.
And she got me right in. Like, she literally saw me next day.
Yeah.
And was very lucky, because trying to get mental health help in this country is very, very difficult. And it's sad, because I think it's something we should have the resources by now. We should be able to be much stronger in this. And it's still looked at as weak.
Mm-hmm.
And, trying to break that stigma of all that, it's, it's a work in process.
Yeah. And another thing that plays into that too is, because I've talked about how I go to therapy, and I really enjoy going. But also what plays into it is I'm 6'2". You're like what, 6'6", 6'5"? Yeah. Like, part of that plays in it too. Like, wait, you're a giant man. You need to see somebody. You have mental health problems. You're this giant tower of a person. Like, but it affects everybody. And
oh yeah, absolutely.
And kudos to you for obviously for figuring it out. That no matter how long it took, it might, in your opinion, it might have been too long that this went on. But obviously, it's the first hurdle is figuring out, like, man, this is too much. Also, there's some places of work that'll just be like, you know what, you don't have to work here anymore. We'll find someone else. And I'm sure there's plenty of people to do it. And you had a job where, like, hey, we'll help you figure this out. We'll hire somebody. You need time off. That's another thing too, is having that company, that organization, that family that I'm sure that that's what it feels like now to be behind you 100%. Let's get you healthy. When you're ready to come back, come back.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I will forever credit my boss, Ken Schnocky, the president general manager of the Columbus Clippers, for is not throwing in the towel on me, because he could have done it multiple times. And especially this past summer with it could have been easy. Hell, something else I'll say publicly for the first time. I put in my 2 weeks during that stretch. Yeah. And he was baffled by it. He didn't, that's when we really, he didn't know that I was struggling that bad, because I was masking so much that I was perfectly fine. Mm-hmm. And I've been masking for so long. It's relatively easy for me in short periods of time, in 6-12 months, I can handle it. It's one of the reasons I'm not married yet, is I put that mask on at the beginning of a relationship. And then when the mask starts to come off, I'm worried that that person isn't going to like who I ultimately am. Yeah. And hi, kitty update. Dora's here.
Yeah. Well, part of that too is do you like who you like all the time? And if you don't, then you're right. Then your brain's just gonna say, well, like, what does it matter? They're not. You don't like you. Someone else isn't gonna like you.
Exactly. And it sounds cliche, but it's so true. You can't love somebody else until you love yourself.
Sure.
I was always looking, and when I was in relationships, I was always looking for that person to complete me. That girl was going to make me okay.
Yeah.
And that's not fair, man. You're not dating a therapist. Like it's no, you're dating a human being who's going through just as much stuff as you are. Mm-hmm. And I realize that now. It's one of the reasons that I haven't dated in a while. It's been a few years since I've tried to date, because I'm trying to figure myself out. And
yeah, sure.
We'll get there if we get there. If not, we'll just adopt some kids, and we'll adopt some kids, have a farm, and start my own football team or something. I don't know.
well, when you talk about somebody finding a woman who will complete you or make you better, that's why my parents got divorced. Is my mom quit drinking, and my dad didn't know how to be her husband because he was always taking care of her. So he didn't know, like, okay, you're not drinking anymore. I don't know how am I supposed to be, because I used to always take care of you. Now you don't need me to take care of you. So they end up getting divorced because of that reason. It's if you're looking for a fix, sure, there's going to be those people out there that are like, yeah, I could fix anybody or whatever, but it ain't gonna end well, man.
I've had many wonderful women take me on as a project, and I'm sorry. I'm very, very sorry. There are probably 5 of my last 6 girlfriends. I would probably look at them right now and be like, you know what? I'm sorry. Yeah, man. I was just you got a bad deal with me.
How do you?
I don't know. I wasn't ready.
Sure.
I'm very lucky to have never, taken that marriage plunge or had any kids, just because I don't think I could have been a good husband. I don't think I could be a good dad yet. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure, as being a dad, that you probably definitely had a lot of reservations and were worried when it was about to happen. And you probably didn't think you were ready then either. I just know that I'm still trying to figure out me, man. I'm still trying to, and you know what? I'm 37. I've taken a long time. I've taken a crazy route to get to where I am today, but I'm happy.
Yeah, sure.
And that's ultimately what I've been striving for a long time, is to find that happiness. And I'm the type of guy that sees, okay, a big time coach, or let's say a college football coach. Like, we'll go with, I'll use Matty Campbell as an example. My former tight ends coach at Bowling Green State University, Matty Campbell, hot coach down at Iowa State.
Yeah.
His name gets brought up for every single job opening. You know, every job that they're always like, oh, Matty Campbell can do it. Matty Campbell can do it. Matty Campbell can do it. That's awesome. Like I'm sure that feels good. But I'm the type of guy that like, okay, Iowa State, Big 12. Why not settle in and just make this home and make this a power? I'm the type that's looking for that one space, that comfort zone where you can just and I'm not saying that people shouldn't be trying to get better jobs or anything like that. I'm talking me personally. And I'm so close. I'm so close to finding that that comfort level of career and everything. The financial side hasn't quite caught up with it, but that's tenure. Got to put in more put in more work and pick up more sports.
Yeah, that and if you love what you're doing, that money part, you're like, you know what, I can figure it out because I love what I'm doing. I'll figure out whatever I'm getting paid. I'll figure it out.
If I got to live in a 420 square foot apartment, I'll live in a 420 square foot apartment. Like,
is that the same one that I stayed the night at? Have you moved? That was a while ago.
How long ago was that?
At least 4 years ago.
It might still be the same one.
Yeah.
Real small, crappy one. I made it home. I've made it home.
That's all that matters, man.
I got a corner.
There you go. Your Zoom corner, man. We're good.
My Zoom corner, bro. It's got books and championship rings and autographs and stuff. Like, yeah, all right. May not have a lot of leg room, but I got a Zoom corner, baby. Let's do this.
How do you find any time for anything? Because it always seems like you're doing a lot of stuff. Obviously, it's not baseball season now, so you're not like announcing games. You're still doing stuff, and now you're announcing sports for Ohio State, which is pretty sweet. I love. You have a TikTok where I think it was. You're in the football stadium and you're like my office today or whatever, and it's so cool to me because that's such a cool thing, especially now that I'm doing. I've been doing this podcast. Like, it would be cool to like announce a game or even like, hey, let me get the first 5 minutes or something. It just seems really cool what you're doing.
Yeah. It doesn't really feel real.
Yeah.
Especially last year when football happened. When I found out that I was going to be doing some hype man stuff, like some hosting for football before the Penn State game, it's something that my good friend over in the marketing department at Ohio State, Caleb Clark, has been pushing to get me involved in some way, shape, or form. Bob Kennedy is the PA announcer there, and he's been doing it for a long time. He's fantastic, and I'm not trying to push anybody out of a job or anything like that. So I've just kind of been patiently waiting for a way that I could get involved and really put my voice to good use. And we finally got that opportunity with football this year. Just finished up season 4 of women's volleyball. Currently,
you're doing 5. Wrestling now, right?
I host wrestling. Season 5 of men's basketball, and just about to kick up season 2 of men's lacrosse.
Wow.
I got 7 sports. Men's hockey too. I'm sorry, I did forget men's ice hockey. It's my second season there. What I basically did over there was I was just being used as a fill-in. I filled in for baseball a couple different times when they needed somebody, and just kind of I made myself available. I was like, listen, you voice for anything, man, just let me know. And at that time, Caleb was working. One of his teams was baseball, and we just kind of we became friends, and from being pro wrestling fans and stuff and all this, we became he's one of my best friends now.
Yeah.
But he just texted me one day. He's like, hey, have you ever done basketball? No, I haven't done basketball, but I mean, I know basketball. I can probably do basketball. I just kind of got to hear. I'm the type that if I hear somebody do it, I can generally do it. So, I was just like, yeah, if I can hear somebody do a game and kind of understand the flow of everything, sure. And he goes, well, that's perfect. We need somebody for the home opener, and there's a scrimmage beforehand that you can listen to somebody else.
Oh.
And so I just did one game, and it went pretty well. And then fast forward to, I think it was in January. The regular PA who had been the PA for I think 20, 21 years was on vacation, and they needed somebody to fill in, and I stepped in and covered the game. And it just kind of, social media kind of blew up a little bit about it, about the difference and how much I'm Matt McCoy, the guy who I replaced, is one of my favorite radio personalities here in Columbus. He's a fantastic voice. I'm through the roof.
Yeah.
He's very like very steady.
Yeah.
Very and that steady, I think, is a good way to describe it. You know what you're getting with him.
Very linear.
I'm going to be all over the place because I go with the flow of the game. They asked him if he could, and I respect it, because they asked him if he would pick it up a little bit more, with a little more enthusiasm. He's like, no, this is the way I do it. This is the way I've been doing it for 20 years. Like, what do you expect me to change? And so they made the switch in season, and I finished out the year there. And fast forward then to, I think it was like July or August, Caleb would text me, hey, you want to do women's volleyball? I had covered a men's volleyball game the previous spring, just as a fill-in, and I was like, oh yeah, I could do that. Did one season of it, just fell in love with it.
Really? Yeah.
Yes.
What do you like about it? What do you like about it?
It's just, I think it's a sport that I had a vague understanding of, but seeing it at this level, it's just fun. And when I started, our girls were good. We just couldn't put together a lot of wins. And then we brought in a new coach. And the past 2 seasons have just been crazy. They went to Sweet 16 this year, finished ranked, but I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the sport because I do 65 to 70 Clippers baseball games every year.
Yeah.
Now, no 2 games are the same, but you're doing the same thing over and over. I'm somebody who needs that variety. So when you throw a new sport at me, I locked in on it. I was like, dude, this is awesome. Like, I want to learn more. I want to call more. Like, I want to, and now we're at the point where, okay, we've got a good team. We've got a brand new arena. I'm trying to make Ohio State volleyball have the best home experience in the country.
Yeah.
And that's what I want for everything that I'm involved in. I want to have the best show. I want fans to have the best time. It's why I do nearly 70 games a year, Clippers. There's no taking a game off with my boys, because you don't know, 10,000 people are going to come through those gates. How do you know if it's their first game ever? How do you know if, there's so many different variables, and it's just like, okay, that person has spent their hard-earned money to come to this event. I'm going to give it 110% with my voice, because I want each person coming through there to at least think that I've given them everything that I possibly can. And as an announcer, I'm not really sure if that's the right route, but it's the route that I've gone. It's been successful for me, and it keeps me sharp and keeps me wanting to continue to get better. And there's no settling for me in the sense of announcing. Like, I can always watch more volleyball. I can always watch more basketball. I can always, and getting that variety of having 7 different sports in my off season. This right now is my off season, while I'm juggling a handful of different Ohio State sports. And then I turn around and it's 15 hours a day in summertime for baseball from April to September. Pick up with volleyball and football in August. There we go again, man.
Do you think you put too much pressure on yourself to be like, hey, I got to give not necessarily 110%, because I think that's what people should do at their jobs, right? They should always give the most effort they can in a safe manner. But as far as like in your mind saying, I got to give the best show, not only today at volleyball, but also at football, but also at lacrosse, but also, like, I feel like that would, like, like be a lot of pressure on myself to perform at such a rate where it has to be the best every time.
If I was the show and the only show, absolutely, that would be extremely stressful and very, very draining.
Okay.
But knowing that I'm just a piece,
Okay.
knowing that I'm just a peg in the wheel, so to say,
Mm-hmm.
but I also know that I have to put on a strong performance. That just means that it gives me a bar that I'm trying to reach every single game.
Mm-hmm.
And more often than not, I clear that bar.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything, but I've been able to, as an announcer, constantly exceed my expectations of where I should be and reaching loudness levels and things that I didn't realize that I really had in me. And
do you feel it? Do you feel it when you don't? Like when you come home, you're like, man, that was not a good one.
There are times when I'll have struggles with reads, you know, in game reads. People don't realize, dude, you get a script, man. Not everybody can just push a button and read out loud. And
Yeah.
I remember it's funny. I don't know if this, I think this definitely played into helping me become a better announcer, but I remember in class always, you know, you'd be sitting in class and okay, each kid gets a paragraph. So instead of listening to all the other people read the paragraph in the book,
I know exactly what you're gonna say.
I flip pages and figure out, okay, 1, 2, 3, okay, what's mine, blah, blah, blah. So I don't sound stupid when I'm reading out loud.
And then God forbid you count wrong.
Oh yeah. Oh dude, math was my worst subject, so that always worked. Well, that always played out badly.
Oh.
But no, that's kind of where that was like my first kind of experience with public speaking, was not wanting to get made fun of for sounding stupid while reading something.
Yeah.
And I was able to turn it into like, oh, this is a skill I can use. Started in radio, and now I can use in public address announcing, where it's just like, oh, give me a script, I can make it sound like I'm not reading it. Cool. Yeah. There we go. That's all we're going for, man. Like,
yeah,
some things you read with a smile, some things you read a little bit sterner. Like there's just, it's I don't know. It honestly would be fun someday to try to turn what I do into a class and explain what I do and why I do it, because like my 3-point call, Dwayne Washington Jr. for 3. That 3 call is never the same length, because it depends on the point in the game. It also depends on how quickly the other team is inbounding the ball. I try to not be saying anything once they cross half court.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's a team that's going quick, like Duke was very quick, I didn't get into a lot of my 3-point calls with Duke because they were rude. Like,
maybe that was their game plan. That was their game
plan. They're keeping me out. We got to shut up. Mike Krzyzewski, game plan on the whiteboard. Don't let announcer talk. Boom. And that's why they lost. But like we make a 3-point basket. I'm watching how quickly they are bringing the ball up. Mm-hmm. Because during that, I'm registering how long I can do my 3 call. And if it's a bigger point in the game, like, did we just take the lead? Okay, put a little more 3. And I will. It doesn't happen every time, because obviously I'm not going to drag it out for every single 3. But in big moments, if big moments of Ohio State basketball home games, if you listen on a big 3-pointer, I will carry that 3 until that ball is almost to center court. And God forbid you call a timeout, because I'm going to let that thing ride. I got a big booming voice, and I finally figured out how to harness it and use it for good, I suppose.
It makes you want to. It makes you want to come down and I don't even want to see a game. I just want to listen.
my mom always, my mom hates that there's hi mom, love you. She's gonna listen to this. But she'll always do stuff like, tell the BTN cameras to focus more on you. No. She hates when ESPN does games because ESPN crowd mics generally aren't as loud as BTNs are. And so and she'll be like, you're playing on ESPN. Oh, I won't be able to hear you as well. We'll just turn it up. I love my mom.
I think that's so funny that if you ask her, like, yeah, I watch Ohio State basketball games for the announcer.
One of one, man.
Yeah,
she
man.
One of one.
That's awesome, though, man. That's awesome.
No, she'll get mad like when we're wrestling is on TV when we're on BTN because we time it up so I don't have a lot of TV time when I'm on mat introing. Like we work with the producers and so that, you know, as they're coming out of the break, wrestlers are coming on. And so she'll be like, you need to talk longer on the mat so they show you. I'm like, well, Mom, they're not going to show me. They're going to keep the graphic that the announcers are talking about the upcoming match up longer. Like that's I'm just going to annoy everybody in the stadium if I do that.
Man, that is so good. You know what? Sorry, I if I looked preoccupied, I was just looking at the schedule to see if because I'm going to Columbus for the Arnold.
When is the Arnold?
It's the first weekend in March, I believe. It's Ohio. It's Michigan at Ohio State on that Sunday at 12:30. But my daughter does baton, so she's gonna twirl baton at the Arnold.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and do some other stuff. So maybe we're gonna have that.
We'll definitely get together. That's for sure.
Yeah, and maybe we'll take the fam and watch an Ohio State game. I have to buy tickets, I would assume, pretty soon though, if it's Michigan.
Probably.
Yeah. But no, that's something we can plan. We don't need to talk about it now. But it's exciting.
Cut that part. Nobody wants to hear us talk about. Nobody wants to hear us talk about meeting up. And
have you ever been to the Arnold?
Yes.
I've never been.
WWE, their developmental NXT. They did a couple years where they had like a big setup, like the whole one corner. They had a ring there, and they were showing how tryouts go, and they would have matches and stuff. People would come out and do promos. Like it was just a lot of fun. I literally went 2 of the 3 days each year and just sat for 8 hours and just watched everything that was happening in the ring, just because I was so obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And then they stopped doing it, which I was a little sad about. But it was actually the first out of Florida NXT show was Arnold Weekend, and it was over at the concert venue right next to Huntington Park. And so I was an NXT fan before they started, touring, and I was just like, oh, dude, we got to go to this. And then NXT just blew up, and it's always cool to see things like when you can get to be like, oh, we were at the first Florida show like that. I'll remember that forever. Hell, I got the poster hanging on my wall over there.
Nice.
But speaking of pro wrestling, I'm off to the Royal Rumble this weekend in St. Louis, leaving on Friday. So
wow, nice.
That's dude, it's bucket list.
Get away from your 18
right
sports
there.
You're announcing.
Dude, I had with the exception of Christmas, from October through the end of February, I only had one weekend where I had nothing on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. And it just happened to be the Royal Rumble weekend. And it's within driving distance. And I got a couple buddies, and I was just like, hey, I'm gonna call my buddy Ben. I'm like, Ben, guess who has the last weekend in January off? He's like, I'm looking up tickets right now.
That's funny, because I remember when I stayed with you, we watched wrestling, and I asked you all about it, because that is just not a thing I'm into at all. But I was asking you so many questions because what interests me about it is hearing other people talk about it, because I know that they really love it, and I'll get good information. So we were watching it, and I didn't care. I cared that you cared, and I wanted to know this information.
And see, that's why you're a good friend right there. No, I go in spurts where it doesn't happen often, but I go in spurts where I don't keep up with the live products. But I'm constantly watching old stuff, and that was what was beautiful about the WWE Network. And they're on Peacock now, and it's fine. But when in the prime days of the WWE Network, like when it first came out, it was like Netflix, dude. You could watch every pay-per-view ever, every Monday Night Raw ever, every WCW or ECW pay-per-view ever. And it's just like, if you're a wrestling junkie, dude, you have thousands of hours of entertainment. You know, even if I'm not happy with the current product, I'm still going to be watching stuff. And I like the shows that where they talk, you know, you kind of get to see how the wrestlers really are. You know, the kayfabe wall has been broken down. So, you know, the whole idea that, oh, that isn't real, the Undertaker isn't really a dead man. Like, oh man, like, that sucks. I thought he was dead. Like, oh man, I really wanted that guy to be dead. I'm just realizing now that that was the mindset. I was disappointed that guy's alive. I was mad he was alive.
Dang.
No, that kind of stuff. Like they had a show called Ride Along where they'd put 3, 4 wrestlers in a car and literally just cameras everywhere and just videotape them as they're driving to a different city, and they're just telling stories. And you know, it's cool to see them interact with other wrestlers, you know. And for me, the older I've gotten, the more I've gotten into the production and like what all goes into everything behind the scenes, and how you write storylines and how you come up with characters and all this stuff. And it's really turned into like that's what I probably nerd out about the absolute most, is professional wrestling. And I am totally fine with it.
That's all right, man.
that's
you know what,
that
that fits your look more than Harry Potter.
Well, right. Well, I guess the Hagrid works, man. Come on, like I could be a big half giant. No, I really only have one career goal, and that is to eventually stand in the center of the WWE ring and be the ring announcer.
Yeah.
That was something I was pushing hard for in the past, and going back to what I was talking about with that comfort thing, now in my mind, I'm kind of like, okay, I don't know, maybe I should see how much further I can go with Ohio State before I want to try to chase that, you know. So I'd be fine becoming the PA voice of the Buckeyes and being known as the Paul Keels of public address announcing. That's a goal in the back of my head, but the only real, like, written down, this is the one thing. It's not call on major league game. It's not NFL or anything. No, I want to stand in the center of the ring at WrestleMania and announce the main event. Like, if that's something that I'm able to do, cool. Like, yes, like I get to, I loved baseball. I've worked in baseball now for 11 years. Like, if I get to work in pro wrestling, sweet. If I don't, my skills are being used.
Sure. Yeah.
and I in the last 2 years, I've done over 150 events.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very blessed.
Good.
Very, very, I'm very lucky, man. I've somehow turned this into a career that I can do for as long as I want. Sitting down, talking into a microphone, like, being able to convey passion about what the kids out there are doing. It's easy, man. It's so easy to just flip that switch, because I was an athlete, man. I know what those kids go through off the court and off the field. Like, I know how hard it is to be a collegiate athlete. And so I guess it goes back to talking about trying to put on a good show for every person that comes through the gates, trying to put on a good show for those kids that are working their tails off, trying to balance being a student, being an athlete, having a social life, you know, trying to date. Like, this, dude, there's a reason I failed miserably at that. I did, man. I cared more about the social life, and that's why my college career did not pan out the way that it should have. But no, I don't regret that at all. Like, I've learned a lot from that and use it even today. all that entire experience. But dude, I get to work with these kids that are just they're chasing their dreams, man. Like,
yeah,
you got EJ Liddell's going to go in the NBA draft next year, most likely. That's not a, I don't know that's not a bombshell or anything. That's just an assumption that
sure,
he's so good. He's going to go to the NBA, and it's just like, dude, I get to sit and watch these kids. I stood in front of 104,000 people at 3 football games this year. Like, that's just, it's it's really take a step back and be like, holy shnikes. Yeah, I have been very, very lucky these past few years to start to build something that I think I'll be able to turn into a lifelong career. And I get to have fun, man. I get to be a fan. I get paid to be a fan. And the long and the short of it, that's what I'm currently blessed to do. And I haven't said it for a long time. And I know I said it earlier, but like, I truly am. I'm happy.
Good.
And
good, man.
And I I didn't know that this was this was not a planned route at all. But suddenly this is what's been presented to me, and the opportunities have been presented to me, and I'm just trying to knock out anything that any chance that I get. I'm lucky, man. I'm very, very, very lucky. I got to do some cool things before this, and now I'm doing some cool things in my current life. And it's, I don't have kids, don't have a wife, it's, I haven't really knocked that part of my life out yet, but career wise, I feel like I'm moving in the right direction, and that feels good.
Good. Well, man, keep that's all you can do is keep that feeling that you have, regardless of what it is, what you add to your repertoire, and keep going, man, because you do seem happy. We talked in the summer. You helped me out with a wedding, and you were expressing all that stuff you're going through, and you sound happy, you sound in a better place. So keep moving forward, man. We'll end it there because that's a good note to end on. I appreciate you coming on the podcast.
I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, man.
I knew you were going to run out of guests sooner or later, and I was going to get that call. So
no. Well, I'll definitely have you back on, because there's more stuff I want to talk about. We didn't even talk about, you brought it up a little bit, but your college career, you got to play football with Urban Meyer as a coach, right? There's more stuff I want to talk about, and obviously I want to keep up with what you're doing, and hopefully we can catch up in March when I'm down there at the Arnold, and I get to hopefully see you in action, man, because the passion that you are just talking about now, like, it'd be nice to be able to see it and not have to rely like your mother does on BTN or ESPN. So, but thanks again, Matt. You're a great friend, and I appreciate you coming on to do this podcast.
I appreciate you, brother. It's an honor to be asked, and it's an honor to consider you a good friend, dude. So thank you, truly.
Right. Please rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. It means the world to me. If we can get this podcast off the ground and running, you don't have to share all the episodes. Just share one you like. One podcast, if you share one, could turn into a subscriber down the road. So any little bit helps. My Gmail is thenerdballpodcast@gmail.com. I'm on all the social medias: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Find me at Twitter at the Nerdball Pod. Instagram is the Nerdball Podcast, and Facebook is a page at the Nerdball Podcast. Thanks to Real JP Multimedia, Cuttlefish Graphics, Perrysburg Junior High STEM, and Big Daddy Graphics for helping out the podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.